guys, it's Ilana and welcome back to my channel. So I'm outside Inako with Prague. I thought this would be the perfect place to film your burning questions answered about living in San Francisco. I do apologize if I'm a little washed out. Every single time that I want to film outside, it's always really sunny out, and I just simply don't have control of that because these dates of where I film are planned, and that's just life. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this video. So I just want to thank all of you for sending in your questions, mostly through Instagram. I got a couple through YouTube. So let's get into the first question. May you compare the different areas and their decrease in rent since COVID? Will they continue to drop? Great question. I really want to make a video on the best different neighborhoods that you can live in San Francisco. So to answer like the decrease in rent, I don't know the different decreases of rent in the different neighborhoods specifically, but what I can tell you is that yes, rent has been decreasing in San Francisco since COVID has happened, and I believe rent has decreased by at least 11%. And I can link the source down below as to where I got that information. I do think that rent will continue to decrease over time. I would say give it until mid-November and we should see a huge decrease in rent. And I think that's kind of nice for people who are looking for apartments because it's really nice to see the rent go down as more people are leaving the Bay Area specifically. I'm so sorry if I wasn't able to completely answering your question about the different areas that have decreased in rent, but what I can tell you is that some areas that are cheaper to live in are the Sunset, the Richmond, Ingleside, anywhere that's near like SF State or City College. Those areas are going to be a little bit cheaper than other neighborhoods. So I hope that kind of answers your question. Great question. The next question is, how do you survive on a limited budget in San Francisco? Hashtag struggling. Okay, so that could literally be a whole entire video in itself. Basically, the way that I live on a budget in San Francisco is that I have to understand my salary of what I'm making and being able to determine what can I spend in that month? How much am I able to afford in rent based off my income? So understanding your income is going to be really crucial for you to understand how do you survive on a budget. There are so many great free things to do in San Francisco, so that can really help save you money. I also recommend that you take public transportation more than riding Ubers, just because public transportation is going to be a lot cheaper than taking Ubers all over the place. I do understand public transportation cannot always be reliable, which I get, so sometimes you will take an Uber. I did take an Uber to this park because the public transportation near me has mostly been shut down, which sucks, but when we're not in a global pandemic, it's a completely different story. Those are some things you can do for now. I do plan on actually making a whole entire video about how to survive on a budget in San Francisco. So stay tuned for that. It's coming up in October. Okay, this next question asks, is it actually the most inclusively gay city? So I don't know where you read that from, but I will say San Francisco is definitely inclusive towards the LGBTQIA+ community. We have a neighborhood called the Castro District, which is actually one of my favorite neighborhoods in the city, and it is basically the gay neighborhood. Lots of gay pride over there. It's pretty much pride every day of the year in that neighborhood. But then again, I will say San Francisco is pretty gay friendly in general. Now, just to disclaim that I am cis and I am straight, so I can't really speak on behalf of the LGBTQIA+ community and how they feel living in San Francisco and whether or not that they feel accepted. But coming from an outsider's perspective, I can say that I do think that San Francisco is very inclusive and tolerant of people in that community. And my friends who are part of the LGBTQIA community have told me that they do feel very safe and accepted while living here. But if you think differently and you are part of the LGBTQIA+ community, comment down below and let me know how you feel about living in San Francisco. Do you feel like this is a very inclusive city towards your community? Do you feel accepted and tolerated compared to other places that you lived? I would really like to know, because I know you'd be able to answer that question a little bit better than I would. I would say that we are very gay friendly. San Francisco takes pride very seriously here. If you do come to San Francisco, I do think that you will enjoy your visit here if you are part of the LGBTQIA+ community. Let's go on to the next question. So this next question asks about job searching in San Francisco. Who's hiring in most popular job titles? There are still a lot of big tech companies that are hiring. I would say the biggest jobs that are in high demand right now are still software engineers. I would say also in data science is really big right now. Sales is so-so. A lot of sales jobs have stopped. I would say there are absolutely no recruiting jobs right now since there's so many hiring freezes. But I would look at bigger companies, and there are some mid-sized startups that are still hiring right now. Those are some of the most popular job titles that I am seeing at the moment. I will say job hunting in San Francisco during a global pandemic has been really challenging. I am currently doing that myself, and it's been an absolute nightmare just because there aren't a lot of recruiter jobs available out on the market, and if there are, they're all at a senior level, and I'm not a senior level candidate, so I'm kind of disqualified from those positions. So that's absolutely frustrating for me. But if you have more experience, I would say software engineers are really in demand right now. They're always in demand, and believe it or not, they're still in demand during a global pandemic. So this person wants to know, where are the best places to eat and the best places to get clam chowder? Well, that is a very broad question to ask me, where are the best places to eat in San Francisco? I just feel like I could go on and on and on. I've made a couple of videos on some great food videos that you can go to, whether you're in the Mission, you're vegan, if you like ice cream. Those are some great ideas that you can get. I would say some of my favorite places to eat in San Francisco is Senor's Pizza. If you're really into pizza, that's a great place. There are 2 locations. There's one in Lower Haight, and then there's one in the Outer Sunset Parkside area. Where else do I like eating? Oh, I really like Lemonade. That is a really great spot. You can get a lot of healthy food, and they also have the best grilled cheese sandwich ever. It's very common on the West Coast, and I love Lemonade. Highly recommend Lemonade. To answer your question about the best places for clam chowder, so I am a vegetarian, so I don't eat clam chowder, but I can tell you of 2 really great places to get clam chowder. The first one is a pretty cheesy place to bring up, but it is Boudin. That is a sourdough bread company in San Francisco. They are well known for giving you clam chowder in a bread bowl. That's one of their most popular dishes, so I really recommend that. And who doesn't love a bread bowl? Bread bowls are really good, so if you love bread, then you're gonna love that option. Also, a really great place to get clam chowder in San Francisco is Hog Oyster Island out by the ferry building. There are a couple locations out in the North Bay, but if you want to stick to San Francisco specifically, that is a great option. They're very well known for that dish, so be sure to check that out. So this person asked me, is it true that everyone rides bikes there? Kind of, yeah. I mean, you will definitely see fewer people taking public transportation these days due to the pandemic, but San Francisco is a very, very bikeable city. You can honestly bike anywhere in this city. It'll definitely take you a lot less time to bike somewhere than it would to take the bus or BART, depending if you're taking BART within San Francisco. A ton of people are biking these days. You will definitely find more and more bikers out, especially around like the Panhandle, Golden Gate Park area, Ocean Beach. There's so many bikers out. People are really biking a lot these days. I would love to have a bike, but if you have a bike, yeah, definitely bring it. It will definitely get you all over the place. Just make sure you practice good security because bikes get stolen all the time in the city, which is really unfortunate. So just make sure that you know how to keep your bike safe from getting stolen if you are going to be a heavy bike rider here. So this next question. Do you like the tech bros or the rich art bros? Honestly, I don't really like either. I really don't like the tech bros because they really do have that stereotypical douchebag personality to them. I have met some good people who work in tech, and they are people that I do mesh well with, but for other reasons, I'm just kind of like, you're kind of basic and boring. As far as the rich art bros go, I've never really heard the art bros to be rich in my opinion. I feel like they don't make as much money. I could be wrong, but I guess I would pick the art bros over the tech bros just because I feel like the art bros have a little bit more of a personality, and I feel like I could probably connect with them on a better level because I also consider myself to be creative when it comes to producing Instagram content and videos for my YouTube channel. So I feel like I could probably resonate with them more compared to the tech bros. Even though I do have a tech recruiting job, I just still feel like I can't really talk tech stuff with them and relate to them more. Does that make sense? This next question says, what are your 3 favorite things about living there and your 3 least favorite things? Ooh, okay. Not too long ago, I just made a video about why living in San Francisco sucks, and I list a ton of reasons as to why I hate living there. But I can tell you my top 3 from that video is rent being very expensive, the fact that the city is really dirty and full of a lot of homeless people, and then the third thing is is the catcalling. The catcalling is just absolutely a huge nightmare here. If you are going to be a young single woman, not even if you're just single, if you are just a woman in general, you will probably experience catcalling here. It happens a lot. I know it happens everywhere, but I feel like it happens so much more in San Francisco compared to anywhere else that I've lived in. As far as the top 3 things that I enjoy about San Francisco is A, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, that's beautiful. Does that look ugly to you? I don't think so. How beautiful this city is. There's so many amazing views. I think the food here is phenomenal. I just feel like some of the best food that I've ever had has been in San Francisco. I have gained a ton of weight by eating all of the food in San Francisco. So the food is one thing, and then I also really like how diverse San Francisco is. I think it's really cool that you will find so many people from different countries living here, and it's a really great way to connect with others and get to learn more about other people. I really value building relationships with people who are from other countries, and I feel that San Francisco is chock full of them compared to Virginia and Kentucky, where I've lived. I know that probably makes a ton of sense considering those 2 states are in the South, so you probably won't get as much international diversity compared to California, but that's something that I really love about San Francisco is the international diversity that we have. So this next question, where are the most beautiful hikes? So I'm actually going to be making a video on this in October, so I hope you can wait till then. I have been trying to explore a lot more hikes in San Francisco and even outside of San Francisco, and that video will actually include more Bay Area hikes as opposed to San Francisco hikes. But if you are just in San Francisco specifically, a great hike in San Francisco is the Batteries to Bluff Trail in the Presidio. You get a stunning view of the Golden Gate Bridge from there. The Presidio is like the naturey part of San Francisco, and there's so many great hikes and small trails that you can do. Land's End is another great place to go on a hike, which is really close to the Presidio, but it's more in the outer Richmond area. Also, another great place that I feel that is really underrated for a hike is near UCSF Parnassus campus. There's a ton of trails over there that will take you up to, that will take you near Sutro Tower. There's some really great trails over there. I've done that before. So those are some great hike places that you can find within San Francisco. But if you stay patient again until October, I will give you all an entire video on places you can go hiking in the Bay Area. So just stay patient with me on that one. Okay, so this next question says, how has it been making friends? You know, surprisingly, it's actually been really easy for me. When I first moved to San Francisco, I was really lucky that I knew a couple of people living here already, so I was able to reconnect with them. Even if I hadn't talked with them in a while, reconnecting with people and utilizing your network, that was really big for me, but I understand that's not going to be the case for everyone. I've made a whole entire video about how you can make friends in a new city. A really great way to make friends in San Francisco, which is one way how I did it, was to find your school's alumni organization and start going to their events. So while there's no Old Dominion fan base here in San Francisco, there is a University of Kentucky fan base. When it's college football season or college basketball season, you can find me at the UK fan-based bar, and I'll be attending watch parties, and that's been a really great way to meet people. I've made friends through that, and that's been really fun. Another great way that I have made friends was making friends from the friends that I already have. Also, when I got into content creation and got more active on Instagram, I was part of this engagement thread on Instagram with other San Francisco content creators. So I was able to make connections through that and was able to become friends with some women and men in that group. And that was a really great way to make friends as well. But if you want to learn more about how you can make friends in a new city and in general, I really recommend you watch that video. I'll have it linked up here for you to watch. Okay, this next question. Why do you love San Francisco so much when it's full of feces, needles, and piss? Yeah, I mean, I agree. San Francisco can be really gross, and a lot of gross things are on the streets. But I feel like I kind of already answered like why I love San Francisco so much. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think the people here are really friendly and just very accepting. I really like the culture and the food here. I just feel like I'm never bored. There's always something to do in San Francisco compared to where I've lived before. I was always bored. I just feel so engaged and I just feel really accepted. This was the place where I kind of found myself, and I can't thank San Francisco enough for that. So I hope that answers your question. This person wants to know if I can compare Richmond, Virginia with San Francisco. They also mentioned do a tutorial on how to do Insta-worthy photos. Sure, I could totally make a video on that for y'all. And then they also wanted to know how much time is actually required to do YouTube content and Instagram content. Okay, cool. So let me answer the first thing. So to compare Richmond, Virginia with San Francisco, in my opinion, I feel like there's no comparison because San Francisco is obviously better than Virginia. But I will say rent is definitely going to be a lot cheaper in Richmond, Virginia. I think Richmond, Virginia is also a lot smaller, and I feel that the people aren't as accepting of who you are. Every time I go back to Virginia, people really don't like it when I come in with my loud, outspoken opinions. They think I'm batshit insane for speaking my mind. People are very, very judgmental in Virginia. I mean, don't get me wrong, people are going to be judgmental anywhere you go. I have discovered that people are just not as nicer in Virginia compared to California. I have felt very accepted and have felt like I've been able to express my opinion and to be very unapologetic in San Francisco. When I go to Virginia, I feel like I have to be silent, and that's just not who I am. Also with Richmond, Virginia, public transportation really isn't a thing. They have a bus line, but it's not that reliable. I really like that San Francisco has all these public transportation options. People do say that San Francisco's public transportation system isn't as reliable as New York, and I can definitely agree with that, but I've been able to get away with not having a car in the city, and I really like that. In Richmond, you have to have a car. No questions asked. There's no way to get around the city if you don't have a car. I feel like I could just kind of go on and on and on. I'm so tired of sounding petty, but basically I did make a video when I had to move back to Richmond for a month and a half after I had lost my job in San Francisco originally. I'll have that linked right up here for you to watch on why I feel like my hometown is toxic and why I didn't enjoy it. And that should kind of give you a little bit more context on how I feel about Richmond, Virginia, and how I compared it to San Francisco. And then you also wanted to know how much time goes into making a YouTube channel and Instagram content. The answer is ton of time. Oh my gosh. I will say YouTube is definitely more time consuming compared to Instagram. So with YouTube, you have to film the video, you have to edit the video. Also, before you film the video, you have to come up with your script and the ideas behind your video. It takes a lot of time. Some videos that I create take me about maybe 45 minutes to film, but the longest, it can take me a whole month to film an entire video. When I do San Francisco videos where I'm out about in the city, I'm taking you from point A to point B to point C, I film those over a couple of days because there's absolutely no way I could spend a whole entire day filming and have the video be done. I have to break it up so it prevents me from burning out. Also, sometimes the San Francisco videos, when I'm out and about, and especially if I'm doing like a food video and I have to spend money on the food so I can show you what the food looks like from that restaurant, that costs money. And the fact that I'm not a monetized channel yet, it sucks, because one reason I do care about monetizing my channel is so the money that I make from my AdSense will go right back into my channel. Speaking of that, you need 1,000 subscribers to become monetized, so make sure you subscribe down below because I always post content about what it's like to live in San Francisco, and I'd love to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So help me out with that one, because you supporting my channel means a ton. And as far as Instagram content goes, that does take a lot of time. It takes about like 2 to 4 hours of my weekend going out in the city, setting up a tripod and a camera, and taking pictures by myself. I don't have a boyfriend or a husband to take pictures with me, and I'm not gonna constantly ask my friends to take pictures with me, so I have to do all of this by myself. So as I'm filming this, I have my camera up on a tripod in the middle of a public park where people are watching me and probably staring at me, wondering like, who is this girl and what the frick is she doing? Trust me, I get it a lot, but I really don't care. And I just have the confidence to do what I have to do. So aside from taking time to go out and finding a spot to take pictures, making sure that where I want to take pictures isn't going to be crowded and full of people, and then I have to edit the pictures, which can sometimes take me up to an hour, and then I have to craft a caption, which can also take me a while to do, and to find the hashtags, which takes me about 10 minutes to do. There's a lot of time, but YouTube is very time consuming. It's not an easy job to do. It's really not easy to run a YouTube channel. It takes a ton of time. So I've been consistent with this for 3 years now, and I absolutely love it. Yes, I slave a ton of my weekend time away to this channel and to my Instagram, but I wouldn't want it any other way because I absolutely love doing this, and I know you guys get a lot of value out of the content that I produce, which is why I dedicate my weekends to doing this. So I have one more question. This person asked, would you be happy to raise a family in San Francisco, and any thoughts of moving to another Bay City? Whew. So to answer the first question, if I were to raise a family in San Francisco, I would need to be financially stable to do that. I'm not in a good place in my life where I want to raise children. Don't get me wrong, like, I want to be a parent. I want to have children so badly. It is like my life's dream to be a mom. But I also need money to have kids because, well, kids are very, very expensive. So as long as like my partner and I are in a financially good spot to have children, then it is possible, but we would definitely need to look into buying a house and seeing what can we afford, because this is a really expensive place to raise a child. If I were to have a family in San Francisco, I probably would only be able to afford one kid, and I want more than one kid. I want 2 to 3. So it just really depends on where I am financially and if I meet a partner here who wants the same thing that I do. But to answer the second question, I could see myself moving to another Bay City, but I'm not really ready for that yet. If I was in a relationship, I think I would prefer that to be in the suburbs, and I think being in the outskirts of San Francisco would be a better way to raise children, to kind of piggyback off your first question. So I think Berkeley or Oakland wouldn't be a bad place to live. I think those are still really great places that kind of cater to my youth and what interests me. But if I were to live in like the deep East Bay, probably not. I know I would be very bored if I lived in Napa or any part in Marin. I would get very bored there, and then I also probably would not enjoy living in San Jose because it's way too suburban-y. I need a balance of city and suburbs if I were to make that work. All right, well, those were all the questions that I got. I want to thank you again so much for submitting your questions. It really means a lot. So if you liked this video and you felt that you learned something new, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.